let's start with the incenter. So the incenter is a point in the triangle where all the angle bisectors intersect. Okay, so it's going to be this point in the middle. Now, in order to find the coordinates for this point, we're going to have to label, let's say this side will be A, this C, and this B. And let's say we have the point x1, comma x2. I'm sorry, x1, y1. And then x2, y2. x3, y3. So the incenter, we'll call it the I, will be A, so the length of BC in other words, times x1 plus B times x2 plus C times x3 all over A plus B plus C. So the A plus B plus C, that's really the perimeter of the triangle. And then we're going to do the same thing with the y. So we start off the same way. It's A, but now we're going to multiply by the y coordinates. So if you memorize it for the x, the y is very simple. So we're just switching out the x for the y. So that is my formula. Okay, let's look at an example now. Let's say we have A is 1/4, is 1 comma 4, B is 3 comma 2, C is 8 comma 6. So I would graph this it's good to visualize it, but this step is not necessary. So this is my triangle. Okay, so I have my A, B, and C. It might be helpful to say that A is the length of BC. So I'm just using this triangle right here. B is the length of AC, and C is the length of AB. Okay. So the first thing you should always do is find each of these lengths. And that's where we have to use the distance formula. So the distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus the difference in y2 minus y1 squared. This looks complicated. So what I like to think about this as is the change in x squared plus the change in y squared. Now for the change, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative because it's going to be positive once you square it. So it's really not a big deal. So let's see, let's find A first. A was the length of BC. So we go from 3 to 8 in the x, that's a change of 5. And then the y goes from 2 to 6, so that's a change in 4. So this is square root 41. B, we said, is the length AC. So A goes from 1 to 8 in the x, so that's a change in 7. And then 4 to 6 in the y, so that's a change in 2. So this is square root 53. And C, well, C we said is AB. A goes from 1 to 3, so that's a change in 2. And 4 to 2, that's a change in 2 in the y direction. Technically it's negative 2, but again, I don't care. So that's just going to be 2 root 2. So I'm going to put that on the triangle. So A is root 41, B is root 53, and then C is 2 root 2. So we have a, b, and c, and now all that's left to do is multiply that with x1, x2, x3, and y1, y2, y3. Okay. So recall, we need a x1 plus b x2 plus c x3 over a plus b plus c. Okay, and then it's a y1 plus b y2 plus c y3 all over a plus b plus c. Okay, it's probably better just to get the a plus b plus c out of the way. So a, let's see, a we said was root 41, b we said is root 53, and c is 2 root 2. So let's write that down for the next one. Okay, now for the top, I'm going to do the same thing. Write out a, b, and c. But now I'm going to multiply by the coordinates. So first one is x1. x1 we said is 1. And then x2. x2 we said is 3. And then x3. x3 is 8. So, and now let's go to the y's. We start with y1. y1 is 4. y2 is 2. And then y3 is 6. So that's how you set it up, and the next step will just be to simplify. So this one I would highly recommend use a calculator and simplify this coordinate. Okay, let's do one more. Now we're going to be introducing negatives. I purposely didn't have any fractions just to make it much more simpler to calculate. Okay, so let's graph this just so we get an idea what's happening. Let's see. Okay, now we're going to connect this, form a triangle. And we want to find the length of each side. So I'm going to start with A by default. A is the length of BC. So we're going to look at the change in x. So it changes from -4 to 2. That should change in 6. The y changes from -1 to 0. That should change in 1. So that's going to be root 37. B is the distance between A and C. So A goes from -2 to 2. That's a change in 4. And then the y goes from 3 to 0. That's a change in 3. Technically -3, but I don't really care that it's negative. And if I add this up, I get root 25, which is 5. Okay. So let me plug that in now. A is root 37. B is 5. Now we want to do C. So C is the distance between A and C. Oh no, sorry, B and A. B goes from -4 to -2. That's a change in 2. And then the y goes from -1 to 3. That's a change in 4. So this is root 20. Which is 2 root 5. All right, now we have our lengths, A, B, and C. Now let's find our coordinate. So I like to start at the denominator. So the denominator was the perimeter, if you recall. And I'm going to do this in order. Always start with A. then B, then C. Okay, let's do the same thing with the second. Okay. Now, the numerator was A, B, and C, but we're going to multiply it by each of the coordinates. So first, we're going to do the x's. So now we just have to put the x's. So x1, that was A, was -2. x2, that was B, that was -4. x3 was 2. Okay, and then let's do the same thing for the next one. Now we're going to do with the y's. So y1 was 3, y2 was -1, and then y3 was 0. So here, all we would do, multiply it out, add it, simplify. And this is a great problem to use a calculator on. And so that would be my Incenter.